Hi, I'm ED-SKaR, and I hope you don't mind me running some stuff off in the background because I am on time. This is supposed to be easy print. That's not easy print. I mean, clearly this is for FDM printing, not resin printing, but if I was FDM printing this, I wouldn't want it like this. Why are all the parts... Oh, doesn't matter, I'm not FDM printing. Let's go. There's a resin version. Let's grab the resin version. Hi, I'm ED-SKaR, and I am on the clock time limit. That's why the track's part of... This isn't... You know what? I don't have time to fix it. It'll do. It seems a little small, however. And the program has crashed. Yay. We are off to a fantastic start. Let's grab. Now, it looks small. Why does it look small? I need to double check what scale this was in. It doesn't say the scale, but it is a Wyndham Graves model who commonly works in a 1:100 scale. So, I suspect that if I just scale it up by 178? 178%. Turret as well. 178, and the other turret also 178. Oh, this is taking a bit longer than I'd anticipated because I didn't expect it to be wrong. Does it need to be hollowed? Probably. I am really not doing a good job of talking about what I'm getting up to because we have upcoming a Bolt Action 3rd edition Tank War event. Now, there has not been an official Tank War rules released just yet, and so what we're doing is we're taking 3rd edition rules and we are just switching the armoured platoon and the infantry platoon in terms of how the platoon system works. And so you have to have an armoured platoon, and then for every armoured platoon you can have one of every other type of platoon, including an infantry platoon. And this just encourages people to take quite a few vehicles in the same way that the 2nd edition armoured platoon was kind of set up to encourage people to take a lot of vehicles. We're also involving a rule where everything that isn't a vehicle needs to be mounted on a vehicle. Bicycles, motorbikes, cavalry, infantry on transport vehicles, or vehicles themselves, essentially. Anything like that is just fine. But when I played Bolt Action in... Oh, I forgot to... Yeah, I did. Whoops. I forgot to cut some holes. Let's cut some holes. This is going to muck around with the... Oh, no, I managed that. Okay. That is the jankiest way of doing it, but it's working, so let's go for it. Anyway, when I was playing Tank War in 2nd edition with the official Tank War rules, we did kind of come to the conclusion that it's sort of... the game isn't really set up for vehicles. And the same is true of 3rd edition. And commonly that is just because a tank has one shot from its main gun, maybe a bow machine gun as well, but they're even less relevant in 3rd edition. But one die roll, it's so easy to roll a low value and just miss. And even though you've got 5 vehicles, it's quite easy to miss with quite a few of them each turn, making for not necessarily kind of a feels bad kind of moment, but just a series of annoyances. And so I went having a look through and I realised that there's one vehicle that sort of, kind of, just about gets around this, and that is the M3 Lee, or M3 Grant would also apply. I'm specifically taking the Lee with the cupola, however, and there's a reason for that we'll get to in a moment. Because this particular vehicle, all variants of this vehicle have medium anti-tank gun in the hull and a light anti-tank gun in the turret, and can shoot both each turn. And so, for your same 5 vehicles, you're getting 10 shots instead of 5 shots. And so you have twice the opportunity to miss. It's still possible to miss. But if I'm going to take advantage of this, what I really want to do, if I'm going to take advantage, I may as well just really take advantage. I may as well just absolutely cheese it. So I'm going to cheese it. And I'm not going to make just one M3 Lee and bring that along with my, maybe my Brits. I've got some Cromwells, got a little Crusader, adorable little thing, and some armoured cars. No, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to 3D print myself 5 M3 Lees, and I'm going to go ham on the M3 Lees. I'm just going to have a whole bunch of them because this is silly. There we go. Good grief. That's going to need some scaling. Now this is just me absolutely cheating right now, because to make things even easier for myself, I'm just going to emboss the Allied star onto this vehicle by just kind of superimposing another piece. Now this is something that I've actually spoken about a few times in different videos, and people have asked about, and we're asking kind of, how does it work? 64, 65, there we go, that'll do. And it's this simple. You just go into the 3D printing software, your slicer of choice. You bring in 2 3D models and you just overlap them. I realise that I'm kind of under my webcam, sorry about that. So yeah, you just bring it into your 3D printing software and you overlap them. So that is overlapped. That is a nice Allied star. I think actually I might make it even a little bit smaller. Perfect. Yeah, so when that prints, the resin of like any voxel that is printed as one of these pieces and also the other piece at the same time, they can't be printed twice because they're literally happening at the same time. So it will just print it the once, but that means that these 2 pieces will end up fused together and we will have a nice Allied star on the front of our tank, which just makes it that much easier to paint, and I don't have to worry about transfers. And yep, that's pretty much all I needed to do. So I'm going to run off 5 of these. As my printer runs off a few of these vehicles, I can relax for just a moment and explain what's going on, although anyone who saw my recent video on the Tank War in 3rd edition will already know what's going on, why, and how it ended up. But before you all disappear to go and watch that video, a brief explanation. Our local group really likes the occasional Tank War game, and moving into 3rd edition wasn't going to stop us. But I had the thought that tanks are kind of rubbish in bolt action, because you just get 1 shot per turn from the main gun, and it's really easy to miss. And even if you do hit, it's very easy to fail damage, and so a lot of the time, each tank doesn't really do much. But there's one tank, just the one, that gets 2 shots, and that doubles its chances of missing. And so for the memes, I decided to go for a full platoon of 5 of the things. So now that they're printed, let's paint up my 5 M3 Lees. Kicking me off to a super quick start, I used a green primer, and it's quite green, but we can fix that later on. If any of you have been following me for any length of time, you will recognise a lot of the steps that I'm taking in this paint job, although some of the order and how I'm going about it is subtly different. I like to paint tanks with a subtle modulation effect first, and essentially that means that each module of the tank, the armour panels, the surfaces, the hatches, gets highlighted in the middle. And this is rather than highlighting the entire vehicle from a directional light source, which would usually be from above. And what this does is it visually borders each component and makes them more visible when the paint job is complete. I've done this with stippling and with an airbrush, and both give really good but slightly different looks. In this case, I'm using the airbrush. Most of the rest of the work was done with real brushes, and I picked out the embossed Allied Star that I put on the Wyndham Graves lees, and it was really easy to do as I've made it a physical component. Just not having to worry about freehanding or transfers is just nice. The tracks got some dark silver, which is slightly difficult as the hull and tracks are all one piece. So much for easy print and easy paint, but I managed it just kind of bit by bit, and this was a complete waste of my time, as we shall notice later on. There's a few other details on the tanks. I actually printed up a few different designs because I originally intended for this video to be a comparison, but that didn't actually end up happening. The three main ones are Wyndham Graves, a well-known name in the World War II 3D printing scene, and those are the ones that I added the star to. The other 6 or 7 sets of files that I found ended up all being variants of the same original design. Now I think it originates from Z Dan Wo, but the design has been remixed so many times that I'm not 100% sure that that's the origin. There are stowage crates and tow cables and vents, machine gun barrels, and just lots of other little things that you can pick out in different colours to add some visual variety. I mentioned that the order of operations does change for me when I paint different vehicles, depending on the effect that I'm after, and weathering isn't always the last step. In this case, I'm stippling on silver, black and brown over large portions of the tanks, and this is happening in the middle of the painting process. These random stipple patterns will represent dirt, smoke, damage and paint chips, but also will darken the overall tone, stealing away some of that green from the primer. The road wheels will get picked out afterwards, however, as the order of operations here is important. The road wheels don't get rusty, but they do get darkened by the black wash, all over black ink wash, and this might be considered lazy, but it does a fantastic job of tying all of my work together. And it does the final work in bringing down that bright green into a much more dirty military vehicle green type of green. You'll notice that I'm applying it with a tiny brush, which, sure, does take longer, but it means I can better control how heavy the wash goes down, and also ensure that it goes on nice and evenly. Once dry, the last little fun step is an edge highlight. Adding to the initial step of modulation, the edge highlight at the end really emphasizes the shape of each component of the tank, making it really nice and visible even from kind of gaming distance, quite a long way away for something so small as a model vehicle. I love doing this step as it has such a visual impact on the model. And as I have so many of exactly the same vehicle being painted at once, I can finally do a comparison. So here's some shots of 2 lees, one just before the edge highlight and the other one with it. It's not necessarily a realistic effect. No, that's not the point. It is an artistic choice to emphasize the shapes of vehicles, and it works really well, and I really enjoy doing it because the shapes come out like in your hands as you're painting. I felt that even with the variety that I've managed to introduce with the various techniques that I've used, just everything being a solid block of green was not really what I wanted, and I wanted some other big block of colour. And the easiest way to add a big block of colour to a vehicle is some mud. And I didn't actually mix up any texture paste for this. I just airbrushed a dark brown quickly around the tracks and called it done. And this nicely looks like a thin smattering of a more dusty kind of mud rather than the thick, wet, clumpy mud that I would mix a texture paste for. These were really quick paint jobs. All 5 of them were done in sort of 8 hours-ish in total over the course of a few days. And sure, there's no unit markings aside from the Allied Star, and there's no careful weathering, just the stippling and wash. And the primer colour is still quite prominent, even if we've brought it down with the other techniques along the way. Well, for now, they are done, and I sent them off to their first tournament, which, if you would like to see how I went, there is a link in the description and on screen to have a look at my video, my vlog of the tournaments. And some of these tanks did not come home with me as I was insistent on giving them away to the other people. I really just wanted to do this as a bit of a joke to make a batch paint of 5 tanks to use in one of the games, and I didn't necessarily want to keep the vehicles after I'm done, but I will keep 1 or 2 of them around just for the sake of having some Lees, but the others will be gifted out to various members of our group. And I'm sure that people are going to accuse me of power gaming or something similar by having this double shot tank and painting them in a really rapid way to get them onto a gaming table and winning a tournament with it. Oh, well, that's just not done. But really, I did this mostly as a joke to see if I could batch paint some vehicles and take them to a game in short order. And with that, I succeeded. If you have any other ideas on playing Tank War in 3rd edition, or just post your favourite tank down below. For now, I'm ED-SKaR, always will be, and thank you very much for watching.